Conoco 271, Anchorage departure, radar contact, climb maintain, flight level 200.
Hello and welcome to a special edition of FS MaNiA. It's a rainy day here at the Ted Stevens Anchorage International Airport in south central Alaska. We flew into Anchorage last week from Cold Bay, Alaska in Flight 1's King Air B200. While working on the King Air video series this August, the FS MaNiA channel had a one-year anniversary on YouTube. Somewhere in June or July, I'm pleased to announce our channel reached the 1,000th subscriber mark. I realized this when the 1,000th subscriber commented on one of the A2A Piper Comanche videos and mentioned that she was in fact the 1,000th subscriber. Her name is Elizabeth, and I'm not quite sure how to pronounce her last name, so I'm calling her Elizabeth D. As a way of saying thank you to Elizabeth and all of the FS MaNiA subscribers, I offered Elizabeth the opportunity to select an aircraft and destination for the next FS MaNiA video series. Elizabeth chose the newly released Carenado Embraer Phenom 300 and a flight to Bethel, Alaska. We have already featured the Carenado Phenom 100 in our business jet series, so I'll be adding the Phenom 300 to that series as well. Meanwhile, I'm sure most of you are familiar with AvSim. As of today, September 19, 2015, AvSim is 193,678 members strong, and with 2,871,216 messages posted regarding flight simulation, AvSim is the largest knowledge repository of news and information in the flight simulation community. You can find everything you ever wanted to know but were afraid to ask at the AvSim website, and it's absolutely free to join. When I'm having a technical issue with anything related to flight simulation, whether it's FSX, an aircraft add-on, EasyDock, Active Sky, you name it, I can usually find a solution to my issue at the multitude of forums on the AvSim site. AvSim also has a library of over 600,000 members and almost 200,000 flight simulator related files in the library. AvSim is a valuable resource to our community, so if you haven't already, be sure to check them out at the link in the video notes below. So why am I telling y'all this? Well, about the time Elizabeth D. requested the Phenom 300 video, I received an email from Ray Marshall, who is a contributing reviewer over at AvSim. Ray has written some amazingly highly detailed reviews of many of the aircraft we have featured at FS MaNiA. It just so happens that Ray is right now working on a review of the Phenom 300. Ray proposed that it might be nice if FS MaNiA could produce a video series featuring the Phenom 300 that he could link to in his review. Ray proposed an extended flight with the theme of picking up a factory-fresh Phenom 300 in Brazil and flying it all the way to Wichita, Kansas in the U.S. Now that's close to a 5,000 nautical mile flight in an aircraft with a certified range of 2,000 nautical miles. So we'll be doing the flight in at least 4 legs with stopovers in the Antilles Islands and Fort Lauderdale to clear customs. I am excited and thankful to have the opportunity to work with Ray on this project. So we're going to head down to South America after this Bethel run, but don't worry, we'll be coming back here because there are a few more must-see places to visit in Alaska before we move on to another part of the globe. On each leg of the Brazil to Wichita flight, we will be looking in depth at the many features and systems of the Phenom 300, as well as adding some upgrades to the avionics, including the Garmin touchscreen GTN 750. Since we are going to be examining this jet in great detail along the way for this flight, I'm going to break a little from our normal format and leave off some of the specifics about the 300 and make this sort of an introductory flight in the 300. We will do a cold and dark startup, and I'll show you a few of the tips and tricks on navigating with the standard equipped G1000. One more note on the Brazil-Wichita ferry flight. Ray has provided me with a very special repaint of the Phenom 300. So stay tuned for that series to be uploaded very soon at an FS MaNiA channel near you. Our flight today departs Anchorage at approximately 5:30 p.m. We will climb to flight level 410 and navigate 345 nautical miles west on jet route 501 to Bethel. Bethel is a city located near the west coast of Alaska, accessible only by air and river. Bethel is the main port on the Kuskokwim River. Now that's hard to say, but I'm going to have to say it again, so bear with me. and it is an administrative and transportation hub for the 56 villages in the Yukon-Kuskokwim Delta. Bethel is the largest community in western Alaska and is the 9th largest in the state with a population of just over 6,000. The state-owned Bethel Airport is a regional transportation hub and is served by 7 passenger carriers as well as 4 cargo operators and numerous small air taxi services. The airport ranks 3rd in the state for a total number of flights. It has a 6,400-foot asphalt runway, a 4,000-foot asphalt runway, and an 1,850-foot gravel crosswind runway, and it's currently undergoing a $7 million renovation and expansion. The Port of Bethel is the northernmost medium draft port in the United States. River travel is the primary means of local transportation in the summer. Within Bethel, there are approximately 16 miles of road which are not connected to any contiguous highway system. However, an extensive network of snow machine trails connects Bethel to villages all over the Delta from the Bering Sea to the Yukon. The town's single paved road, about 10 miles, supports a surprisingly large taxicab industry. With 93 taxi drivers, the town has more cab drivers per capita than any other city in the country, making it the unlikely taxicab capital of the United States. Most local cab drivers are Albanian or South Korean immigrants lured north by reports of good money. I wonder if that's why Elizabeth D. wanted to fly to Bethel. Our Bethel Scenery came from the AVSIM library. I found it by just doing a search on Bethel Fsx Scenery. It is by Tim Durham, and I will put more information in the link in the video notes below. Also, I just wanted to say something about comments I've been getting on videos. I get a lot of very, very positive comments, and I am very, very thankful for those. I appreciate all of the feedback that I get. I do try to respond to all the comments. However, sometimes I miss one, and I'll come back maybe a month or 2 later on a video and actually see a comment that I missed. I usually get notified when I get comments, but sometimes they slip through. So if you make a comment and I don't respond, please comment again. I will try to, I'll do my level best to respond to all the comments. And again, thank you very much for those. Also, if you would like to keep up with what we're up to between videos, you can check us out on Facebook and or Twitter. Okay, our VIP passenger has arrived. Are you ready to fly to Bethel, Miss Elizabeth D? Climb aboard, buckle up, and away we go. Hello and welcome aboard, Miss Elizabeth D. And thanks for flying with FS MaNiA today from Anchorage over to Bethel, Alaska. Don't really know exactly why Elizabeth D wants to go to Bethel. There's only really about 2 reasons I can think of. We'll talk about those en route. But we're just going to kind of go through just a quick startup on this. I'll show you as much as I can. It'll sort of be an abbreviated flight, but there will be much more to come. I promise. We'll talk about that. And so buckle up and let's get started here. So we're just going to kind of go through a flow, and we'll start right over here. Here's our passenger oxygen. We're going to push that in. It should be on auto. Pretty much everything we want on auto. We would test here if we could. I think that actually comes later. Batteries will be in the off position. Bus ties auto. Your generators will bring those up to auto. And our bleeds will come up to auto, and crossfeed to auto. The test switch is in the off position. And let's come up here and take a look down here. We want these hydraulic pumps on. We want the ELT armed. We want the seat belts sign on. And let's see, fuel pumps should be in auto, crossfeed off. This is our anti-ice over here for the windshield. The ADS is the air data system. That is heat for that, sort of like pitot heat. And engine anti-ice and wing anti-ice is off, inspection lights off, and the TALs, this is the flap override that's pushed out. The pusher cutout is pushed out. Landing gear's down, and let's come down just a little bit here. Back, I don't want to hit that. And engine ignition should be auto. These switches should be in the stop position, and everything's off here with the fire extinguisher. Trims, flaps are 0, throttles are in idle, parking brake is set, speed brake is closed. And let's get over here a little bit further. We're in pressurization is auto, and the environmental control system will put that up on both, and we'll leave everything off here. And let's look up here. We've got, we'll go ahead and cut on our beacon comes on with our batteries. We could cut on nav lights if we're going to use the ground power unit. I don't think we will. I think we're going to do a fairly fast start up here if all goes well. So coming back over here now, we'll cut on our batteries. Battery 1 and battery 2, and you can see the Garmin starting up there. Really nice little screen here, startup screen on the Prodigy. Great picture of the Prodigy.
Terrain system test OK.
HTOS test OK.
Everything's great. We'll press enter to continue, and a few things I like to do on my map right off the bat. I like to show the topo just because I think it's a little easier to read. I also like to put north up, and I wish it defaulted that way. There may be a way for me to, just some warning chimes there. Let's enter that, and let's come down. There we go. Track up is what I like. Did I say north up? I like track up. And so once that's done, then you can just push here to close that. So we've got track up there. And just looking at our gauges, here's our engine gauges right here. This is the standby, everything all in one instrument right here. There's our auto flight control system. We'll get familiar with that. And so it's light rain here in Anchorage today, and the weather, it's only 5 miles visibility, and we have some clouds at 600 scattered, 3,500 broken, and 5,500 overcast. The temperature 7, so right there in that fog making range, and winds are calm. And Bethel, though, let's see, their winds are 180 at 10, and they got some clouds 2,600 scattered, 3,300 broken, basically VFR there, good visibility. Temperature is 9 and dew points 3. So that's our weather, and looks like it'll be a good trip. Should be. So a neat feature about the Garmin is that one of the many neat features, is that we can come in here and there's a checklist, and we're going to use this checklist. So we want to select the group, and we're going to use the normal procedures. So I'm going to enter that, and then once I have that, I can use either one of these. We're going to just run down through the checklist and make sure we've done everything. So, and we'll just enter, and it turns green. So emergency door locking pin, yes. Emergency door secured and locked. All the documents and the maintenance and emergency equipment. Oxygen bottle valve, we did do that. Push to restore. Control knob is in auto. And the regulator, I tried to check and it won't let me. And battery 1 and 2 switches, they were off, but now they're on. And the bus tie knob's auto. The generator 1 and 2 switches are auto. The GPU we're not using, that's the ground power unit. The bleed 1 and 2 switches are auto. Cross bleed knob auto. Test panels off. Circuit breakers, there were some down here actually that we did not look at, but we're looking at them now, and over here, and they're all in. So we'll say enter, and fuel pump 1 and 2 switches are auto. Cross feed is knob is off. The hydraulic pumps are on. ELT is armed. Pusher cutout button is pushed out, and the gust lock pin was removed. And the windshield 1 and 2 heat switches are off. The ADS probes, air data sensor probes. The engine 1 and 2 switches, that's the anti-ice, off, and wing stabilizer. Anti-ice is off. Bleed 1 and 2 switches are auto. Landing gear is down. Pressurization is auto. The environmental control system knob is on both. Dump button is pushed out. That's right here. And here we go. And let's see, air conditioning panel as required. Shut off 1 and 2 buttons are off, and the fire extinguisher bottle switch are off. Start stop knobs are on stop. And that's these down here, and the flaps are 0, speed brakes closed, parking brake is set, and seat belts are fastened. So we go to the next checklist, and that's when we cut our batteries on. But you know, I really cannot I cannot see this checklist without cutting our batteries on. So we've done all that. Batteries are on, and the GPU we've not used, and the cockpit voice data recorder panel, we can take a look at that. It is right here, and we can test it. Test passed. And here's where we can test the crew oxygen, and but it's not modeled, so we won't do that right now. So we'll come back to here, and we'll sign off on the CDVR panel and go to the next checklist. And I hit the wrong button. There we go. Now we want to, let me come down here, go to next checklist, enter. There we go. Okay, oxygen mass flow microphone, we've checked that. And test panel. So what we want to test is the fire protection, smoke detector, and the annunciator test, and those are over here. Let's see if I can get a better angle. Let's come up this way. That's no good. Here we are. I'm still cutting the model. Let me get up here just a little bit. There we go. So here's our test switch. So we don't want to test the stall protection right now, although I think we could and should maybe. In fact, I think you're really supposed to in the real world. We'll wait on that one. The annunciators, if we hit that, everything should light up, and I'm sure it did momentarily. I've got complete confidence. And the smoke detector.
Fire. Fire.
An alert there. And the fire, same thing.
Fire. Fire.
And we won't test ice protection, but we can test the stall protection. So we should see the ram's horn yoke be pushed forward.
Stall. Stall.
With an alarming voice that says stall, stall. So all of that's checked. And it's saying the stall warning protection system, accept that. There may be a reason to wait, but we tested it anyway. So enter. And so we did fire protection, smoke detector, annunciator, and we've got our seatbelt sign is on. The external lights, we've got the beacon on, and the emergency light switch, we want to arm that. That's right here. That's done. We can check that off. And fuel quantity, we've got 2,700 pounds, basically full load, which is close to 800 gallons of fuel, 400 in each wing. And so we've got plenty of fuel, so we can check that off. And the oxygen pressure for dispatch is right here. One place we can see it, 1,850 psi. So we'll call that enough. And the engine ignition is in auto, the thrust levers are idle, park and brake is set, and doors are closed. So on to the next checklist. So this is the after start checklist. So let's close this right now for time being, and we are ready to start. So we'll signal our invisible ramp helper to let them know that we're starting the engine. We start with the number 2 engine, and actually get in here a little closer where we can see. Actually, let's go in here where we can see even better. So we're going to just monitor of course, our oil pressure. Oil pressure, I'm pointing down here at the cabin. Oil pressure, the ITT, temp, N1 and N2, all of that to make sure we get a good light. It's pretty much automatic. We're just going to bring it over to the start. It'll stay here momentarily while it begins to spool up. And I can see the oil pressure is rising. Actually see some fuel flow here, and I don't know that it should be flowing at that point. It seems like it needs to spool up a little bit first, but we'll call that a good light right there. See ITT's coming up, pressure's up, everything looks good. So I have seen in the real world Phenom 300 pilot start both engines within about 5 seconds of each other. I don't know if that's proper or not, but you can see the annunciators over here are going away. This is the air data sensor heater. It's on. It'll go out momentarily. Oil pressure's coming up, and N1, N2 rising. Fuel flow. There's our light. We have 2 good lights. These are back in the run position, and now we'll go back and look at the after start. GPU, we don't have it. So let's enter that. Electric emergency button. So that's over here, and it is right there. So it's got a little guard. There it comes. We can flip it in. Now that's showing me that it's white, so it's telling me it shouldn't be that way. But we can come in and check our battery voltage and be sure we've got greater than, I think, was it 23.5? We got 28. We are extra good. So we've done that, and we checked the voltage, and now we want to push that out. So let's come back over here, open it back up, push it, and it'll close there. And that's been checked, so we can check it off. And I really like the little checklist. It's pretty cool. And we've done the stall warning protection system test, so we're going to say that's okay. The auto flight control system unit set. So basically we're going to set our initial altitude here of 11,000. So we'll set that in there. For right now, that's all I'm going to do. And so we'll check that off and take off data. So outside air temperature is 8 degrees Celsius. Let's look at our system. Engine set right here. And what I want to look at is engine set, temperature. Did I press engine set? There we go. Okay. So outside air temperature is set on 8 degrees. We could raise it or lower it right here. There's 7. There's back to 8. It's kind of small, I know. And also ATR is on. We can cut it on and off right here. ATR is automatic thrust reserve, which basically will give us a boost in power if it senses that we have lost an engine. It will give us all she's got without exceeding the maximum limits. So that's good, and we'll go back now. And back once more, go back to our checklist, and we have set that. So let's go down there and tell it. Enter. Now, LFE is landing field elevation. So I think this is actually a good time. Let's go ahead and just exit out of there and go in and get our flight plan in here. So I'm going to bring up the flight plan page. And actually what I want to do, instead of doing it that way, I have found that it works a little better. So I'll close that. Let's bring up this page, the procedure page. And I want to come down here and select a departure. This is how I'm going to tell it where I'm going to put the Anchorage Airport in the departure position. So we're going to enter that, and you can see it knows we're at Anchorage right now. So we want to come down here, and the Anchorage 6 is what we want. Now we want runway 15 because that's where we're departing from. And so that's in there. There's no transition, so we're going to load that up. Now with the Navigraph expansion pack, that's the way you do a flight plan. If you don't have that, you can probably put in your key in your departure airport and then your waypoints after that. But that's the way that works. And if we now bring up flight plan, you can see Anchorage is right here on that side, and there's our departure, and it's ready for another waypoint. And so basically what's happening is we're climbing to 600 feet and then turning to heading 200 and vectors on course. So that's the departure, Anchorage 6 departure, and we're going to let the GPS fly it. It's a quick turn, 600 feet. It takes no time to get there. So our next waypoint then after that is the VOR. It is the Sparavon, Sierra Quebec Alpha. So we'll click this once, click it again, get our little flashing cursor, and we can just type it in down here. Sierra Quebec Alpha, and then we're going to enter that, and it likes it. I like it. Now I want to put a VNAV altitude in here, so we're going to fly at 41,000 feet, so I'm going to type that in, 41,000, and we're going to enter it, and it likes it. And so now we'll go down here and put in the next waypoint. Now I'm going to use a little intersection called Akron, and it's Alpha Charlie Romeo. There it is. It found it already for us, Alpha November. So let's enter that, Akron. Now I want to go over there and also tell it that we want to be at 41,000 feet, but that is where we're going to start our descent. And with the VNAV, I'll talk about that some en route, how it works. It does work, but you need to give it a starting point. It won't just calculate it for you and start somewhere between two of your somewhere mid-leg of one of your flight plan legs. So you have to just tell it that we're going to be at 41,000 feet there, and then finally we're going to put in our destination, which is Bethel, and that's Papa Alpha Bravo Echo Bethel. So let's enter that. Now it didn't take it. Why didn't it take it? See, I put it up there for some crazy reason. Had this happen before. Can't remember why. Don't know why. There ain't no sun up in the sky, but I think what I ended up having to do, weird. And it's because, mainly, I think, because I have not thoroughly learned this airplane. But I promise you, before I'm done with all the flying that we're going to do in this airplane, I will learn it. So I'm going to insert these. We'll do it this way. I think this is what I had to do before. So we'll come right here. And now let's put in a waypoint. And we'll put in the VOR, which was, again, Sierra, Quebec Alpha, I believe, going from memory. That was it. So we'll enter that. And so it stuck it there above it. So we just inserted that. And now we'll come over and put in the 41,000. 41,000. Enter it. I think Denise D's cell phone, Elizabeth. Did I say Denise earlier? I hope not. Elizabeth D's cell phone just went off. She just got a text from somebody. Stand by one. Okay, so we got the VOR in there at 41,000 feet. Now we'll insert that intersection that was Akron, I said, and let's get that up there. So Alpha Kilo Romeo, I believe. Romeo. Let me make sure that was right.
916, could you approach runway 7 left? Uniforms now current descent and maintain 3,000 west.
Alpha, oh, it's C. I got that wrong. Well, so that's good. We'll backspace right over there. Alpha Charlie.
Average 960, affirmative.
Romeo. There it is. And now we can just enter that. Now we'll come over here and tell it 41,000 feet. Once again,
average 963,
we'll put that in. Takes a little getting used to all the click spots, and I've had a little trouble getting to know this girl, but we're getting it. So now I want to tell it I want to be at 2,000 feet. That's the initial approach altitude that we're going to fly into there. So I want to come over here and just tell it 2,000, not 230, so it can then calculate a descent for us. There we go. Enter. So you'll see how that works en route, but that's got our flight plan in there. I like it. It looks good. So we're going to just close that box out right now. And let's go back to our checklist. Before I do, let's see, while I'm right here, we can go ahead. We can set our transponder code in here. We can also do it from down here. There's a transponder. We can ident it except it's not modeled. We can also tune comm frequencies from down here. So right now we're just using this for the FMS, but transponder code is squawk 0316 0316. Now this isn't completely modeled. Right now it's just saying on. There should be a ground, standby and ground mode, and there's several other modes, so it's a lot more complex, but in the real deal, but this will serve our purposes. We're squawking something other than VFR. And let's go back to our checklist. So let's bring our checklist up, come down here. I try to make a habit of using this one. It seems to actually work better most of the time. So the reason I wanted to hold off on the landing field elevation and get the flight plan in is because we can come over to landing field right here, and we can use the FMS LFE. So our flight planned landing field elevation is 151 feet. So that saved us some trouble having to look that up. checklist comes back, come down, and we'll say that's good. Now takeoff speeds. So we'll put them in right over here, and we can come down. The VREF is off. That's for landing. We don't need that right now. VR, and I've looked at the performance data for this flight, and with full fuel, pilot and co-pilot, Elizabeth D, the co-pilot, I can't tell you that total weight, but the and some baggage, our takeoff weight is 17,294 pounds. So it looks like, based on we're at sea level, more or less, 10 degrees Celsius, V1 is 106. So V1 and VR are actually the same. So we're going to go ahead and use 106 right there. And we'll set that over here and put it on. And V2, we can set that in here. I can just tell you, it takes a long time to crank it up. But V2, which is our engine out speed that we want to accelerate to as soon as possible, is 116 knots. And I went too far, didn't I? So let's come back right there, 116 knots, and let's cut that on. So we got VR, V1, VR for all practical purposes, and V2 in there. The other thing I will do while we're in here is let's cut our minimums on, make them radar or radio altimeter, and let's set those to 200 feet. And that's if we need to shoot the ILS approach. We'll have those already set up in there. Won't have to mess with it later. And that's all good. So we can close that box now. And we can say, yes, we did that. And transponder set, altimeters. Let's see, altimeters are 29903. And let me see what my weather report said. It said 29022. So pressures come up, 29023, okay, yep, and 29022. So that's pretty close. So we'll call that good. And let's check our flight controls here.
Proceed direct McGrath, climb maintain flight level 200.
Full range of movement. And we can't really see them out there unless we open the window somehow, and I don't think this one will open. It does have a little sunshade there, so we may need that later on. And let's see. So we'll call flight controls. Let's go back down here. Let's say enter flight controls and trims for flaps 1. You can see, let's get over here where we can see. Let's look at this. It tells us right down here what to set our trims at. And it depends on center of gravity. And if I had done a weight and balance, I would know exactly what that is. But since I'm flying with an empty airplane, just 2 people, and I know I'm all right, but still need to set my trim for flap 1. We'll just use the first setting here, 7.7. So you can see right here, there's your trim. And if there's no trim wheel, so don't look for the trim wheel because you won't find it, but there is trim. I can change that. So if I bring it up to 7.7 using just my switch on my yoke. On this yoke, it's right there. Trim down, trim up, and there's the push to talk switch, the autopilot disconnect, and that's I guess this cuts on the autopilot here, autopilot flight director. There's a push to talk switch right here too. So if the autopilot's flying the airplane, you don't have your hands on the yoke, you don't have to touch the yoke, you can just push right here. So I kind of like that. That's good. There's one for the co-pilot over there. So that's pretty nice, pretty sweet deal there. So let's get back in here. We're just about there. So our trims are set, and flaps, we want to set those for takeoff. There's a flap indicator there. There's the handle right there. 1 notch will be fine for us, and we can see that it's indicating 1 notch. So we got flaps set for takeoff. And external lights, we're going to put on our taxi light here when we get ready to leave, and our emergency light armed, and I think we've already done that. So I'm going to exit us out of here. And this is supposed to have a safe taxi. Sorry, I used the wrong button. I'll look at some of those other pages later on. This is typical Garmin. I don't really think this is I don't like the safe taxi here. It doesn't really help me that much. So I'm going to go ahead and just set this, well, went on the wrong one again. There we go. Out to about, I don't know, we'll go out to about 30 miles so we can see our course line right there. Now, there is a, let me double check. The emergency lights are armed. I'm going to cut on our taxi light, and we are ready to taxi. I was going to mention there's a takeoff configuration button right there. We can push.
Takeoff, okay.
It lets us know we've got no warning messages. We've got our flaps set and our brakes off, and we are good to go. But we're not going to take off from here. We're going to taxi out to the runway.
Seat 46 Anchorage, ground taxi via Kilo Echo. Are you familiar?